Good morning, Columbus City Schools, specifically our wonderful middle school and high school students. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties there. Apologize for that. So we're going to move right in, ladies and gentlemen. We have some firecracker, wonderful, successful women here today who are going to share about their role in the nonprofit and human service industry. So I'm going to kind of give you a little sneak peek. We have Community Shelter Board, we have Franklin County Job and Family Services, Student Success Stores, and Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio. You will hear from all of these wonderful ladies, but before we get started, as always, we're going to have some housekeeping. So at the bottom of your screen, you should see it a little bit. There's a Q&A button. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask it there, and they will be either answered live or they will be answered in the chat. So please keep open to all of that, and we will get to it as soon as we can. We appreciate that you all are here. These will be recorded, so you can watch them anytime that you would like. And let's get ready. And I am going to turn it over to the wonderful Aubrey Jones from Community Shelter Board. And Aubrey, you are muted. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, 2 years of Zoom and I'm still doing this. Good morning, everyone. I'm Aubrey Jones. I am the Outreach and Youth System Manager for Community Shelter Board. So you'll see those letters behind my name. They stand for Licensed Independent Social Worker, and the S is supervision. So I'm a licensed independent social worker. The S for supervision means that in addition to my license, I can supervise other people trying to get their social work independent license. I started my career a long time ago, many years ago. I thought I was going to be in the medical profession, and was honestly a very young mother trying to finish college. I got pregnant at a very young age and still tried to finish college, and it didn't quite work out for me. It can be very difficult to get into medical school or nursing school if your GPA is dropped low. But I went to Columbus State and got my GPA back up. It was an amazing environment for me. The teachers that I had at Columbus State they basically were adjunct, meaning they did full time during the day what they were teaching at night. And so they were really passionate about what they were teaching. And it really kind of got me back into college and back into getting good grades and really learning from my environment. Needless to say, I went to a college fair, wasn't sure what I wanted to do because I couldn't get into medical school with the GPA or nursing school with the GPA that I had at the time, even though I had gotten a 4.0 at Columbus State. And found Capital University had an adult program, is what they called it back in the day, but it was basically like night school. You could go full-time to Capital University's adult learner program to get a social work degree. And I would get it in 2 years because I was a full-time student, even though I was only having to go into school twice a week, 3 hours a night. It was kind of rough for a second there. In social work, you have an internship. So you have 16 hours or 2 full-time days at a placement that you have to do in addition. So not only did I work full-time, but I did make it through Capital University's social work program. It wasn't until my senior year at Capital, when I was about to graduate, that I found out what social workers make. And I was like, oh my goodness, my full-time job right now, I was working at Chase. My full-time job right now pays me more than what most bachelor's level social workers make. And so I was like, whoo, maybe I should get a master's. And my friends, my colleagues, and my fellow students at Capital were talking about a 1-year program at Ohio State called the ASAP program. It was advanced placement. If you had an undergrad in social work, you could get your master's in social work in basically 1.5 years. You start in the summertime, and it's basically almost a little bit over full-time credits for at the time it was 4 quarters. I think they're on semesters now, but so I got my master's in social work. getting my master's in social work, I did a clinical track. And what that means is that I basically graduated with the training to be a clinical therapist. And my focus was in children and families. So I started my career in early childhood mental health, believe it or not. I was a full-time therapist. I did play therapy. I had sand trays. I had an addiction to toys that helped with therapeutic process. I would go to any toy store I could find, always looking for cool toys, but I really loved that work. I really loved working with young people. But as I was in that field and as I was starting to get into what we're calling nonprofit, I really went into that world not even knowing what nonprofit meant, what nonprofit work meant. I wanted to help children and I wanted to do mental health work at the time, but I didn't know anything else about the business of nonprofit. And so when I showed up there, I started asking questions. Why do we do things this way? Why is this a therapeutic environment for 3 to 7-year-olds? And we have mostly males in this program, and most of those males are Black or African American. Why is that? And why do we have to bill Medicaid this way? And why do we have to diagnose children at such a young age in order for them to get treatment? I started asking these kind of contextual questions about the world in which we kind of operate. And from there, really started to get into what I do today, which is administration. And the difference in nonprofit administration is these are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. This is the work that I do today. So I've kind of fast forwarded. I've had a lot of positions in administration from the time of being kind of a clinical therapist. I use a lot of my clinical background in the work that I do today, and I'll talk about that in a second. But what I've learned is that when you go into the nonprofit, when you have a passion to help folks, which is kind of where I started, I had a passion to make sure that young children and kiddos in our community and in our world get kind of an equal opportunity and have the best life that they can possibly have, that every child deserves what my child deserves. It's kind of what I've based my career on and kind of where my passion comes from. And I think if you look at that, if you have a passion for nonprofit or for helping folks, you continue to follow your passion. That's kind of how I've ended up here. I continue to follow my passion. Where I asked questions, where I had interest, I kind of followed those steps. So I'll go through a little bit about what I do today and kind of talk to you about how I ended up here. So I work on youth homelessness for Community Shelter Board. Community Shelter Board is kind of the homeless crisis response system in our community. So let me tell you a little bit about how that works. The way this works is that I'm at a system level, or what we call a macro level of nonprofit work. When I was doing, individual play therapy, right? That's what we call a micro level, like the individual level. I was working with individuals trying to make an impact. We have a meso or middle level, right? That's where I was maybe working previous to this position. I worked for the Center for Healthy Families, supporting pregnant and parenting teens in our community, right? I was a program director, so I was supervising folks doing direct services and really trying to structure programs that best fit the need of the folks we were trying to impact, right? Now I work at a system level. What that means is I work with a variety of partner agencies in a collaborative system to try and basically, in this case, impact homelessness. So you'll see on the screen, all of these kind of organizations are all organizations we both fund. And then at a system level, as a macro level social worker in this case, I'm helping to try and impact a whole system. And what you'll learn about kind of the work that nonprofits do is this isn't like willy-nilliness. This is a science. This is studies. We do evidence-based practice, right? This is something where we're learning from what works with folks, and then we're incorporating that. So, when I first started in social services or in the nonprofit world, I thought it was just good people doing the best they can to help people. But what we found is that, for example, you'll see on the middle of your screen, rapid rehousing, that's actually a national term of a practice, a best practice in helping folks experiencing homelessness quickly get rehoused and back into housing, because what we know about evidence shows is that no matter what the person's situation, if they're experiencing homelessness, if we get them back into stable housing, whatever's going on that's causing the underlying homelessness is going to be remedied more quickly, right? Like, for example, lack of employment, if you're stably housed, right, versus being homeless. Another evidence-based intervention you'll see on here is street outreach. We know that not everybody is going to come to shelter for a variety of reasons, and where they can't, we need to outreach to them to try and help them engage in services, because what we know is that as a community, it is better for our folks to be permanently housed in stable housing than for them to be living on the street. But as you can see, this is all intertwined, right? We have shelter, we have a rehousing system, we have a prevention system. And what my role is to try and help all of these partners in a coordinated effort to work on homelessness. Some of the things that I talked about as far as best practices, the kind of jam of most social workers like myself that are clinical or kind of have this background of kind of best practices, evidence-based practice. My role is to bring that to the system. And at a system level, it can be kind of boring, right? Like, so I'll give it to you this way. Housing first is a best practice or a principle that says, like I explained, everybody does better if they're housed versus non-housed. If they have drug and alcohol issues, they're more likely to get sober if they're housed, right? They have employment issues, they're more likely to maintain employment if they're housed. That's what Housing First says. Housing First says everybody needs housing, right? As a basic tenet of like our basic needs, right? So what I do, which can kind of be boring because it's not directly servicing anybody anymore, is I make sure our paperwork and our policies support Housing First principles. Do we have policies that get in the way of us doing that at a system level? For example, if we had a policy that said, in order to apply for rental assistance, you must show employment and proof that you'll be able to maintain rent going forward after we've paid for it. That is a policy that used to be in effect in a lot of places, but that's really against kind of Housing First, because Housing First has put them in Housing First. We also have harm reduction. This is where we talk about, regardless of what's going on, let's say you're spending money in things that aren't helping you maintain housing, then we try and make sure that we reduce those harms. And then I just wanted to touch on, lastly, trauma-informed care. So a lot of my background clinically is about trauma. And what I help folks understand is that, for example, in this case, homelessness and a lot of other stressors that cause people to seek social services, specifically even in young kids that are experiencing homelessness, I help them understand how that stress impacts the brain. And then how do we respond in a way that's trauma-informed, that understands that this person's going through a stressful time and their brain's working differently, and therefore we need to show up differently. I don't want to talk too much, so Bree, should I hand it back over to you?
I can take it on over. Yeah. Thank you so much, Aubrey. And thank you for sharing with us about the Community Shelter Board. I know as a school counselor, I have a lot of questions for you, and it looks like there are some questions already for you in the Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to turn it over to the Franklin County Job and Family Services. We have the wonderful Marcy Littlejohn here with us. So Marcy, I'll turn it on over to you.
Thank you, Bree. Good morning, Columbus City Schools. I'm a fellow Columbus City student through and through, went to Everett Middle School and graduated from Centennial High School because everybody wants to be a star. So greetings to each and every one of you that are here today. As Bree mentioned, my name is Marcy Littlejohn, and I'm with what is called Franklin County Job and Family Services. And I'm all about transparent conversations. When I was your age and older, it was the welfare office. And the only people that came to our facilities at the time, it was their facility, but now it's ours, is people that were poor or needed help or they needed benefits, but they didn't see it as a benefit, because I remember as a kid, there were people that made fun of people that went to the welfare office. And I've had the pleasure of being in a space of changing the face of what this looks like. Because if you think about just the word welfare and think about mental health, welfare just means you're okay. So if you've ever heard someone say that they're going to do a welfare check on someone, they're just basically checking to see if they're okay. So for me in my role, I feel like at Franklin County Job and Family Services, our role is to make sure that everyone in our community is okay, whatever that looks like, whether it be medical benefits, whether it be to support Aubrey and the Community Shelter Board with their initiatives with housing, whether it be food, whether it be cash, whatever those benefits look like, those are the things that I have the pleasure of doing inside my role. Specifically, what I do is I call myself the money manager because I get to manage all of the contracts. So my role is twofold. If you think about $32 million a year, that's how much I get to help and manage and put into the community. And again, those can be in different aspects. I know you saw Aubrey's chart of all of those different community partners. We work with every single one of those organizations to make sure that the community has what it needs in order to be sufficient for our residents. The other fun part that I get to do at Franklin County, which is my absolute favorite part, is I manage a program that's called Achieve More and Prosper. And it's called AMP. And what we do in this program is we help youth between the ages of 16 to 24 figure out what their next is. So talking about partnerships, Opal and I are also partners in that program. So say, for example, like Aubrey, many of us on this panel started our careers different. I was supposed to be a nurse, didn't happen, right? And so if you are trying to figure out what you want to do and you're like, well, I think I want to be a nurse, but I don't like blood, that probably doesn't work, right? But there's other jobs that you can do in the healthcare community that will definitely be a benefit to everyone around you. So in our AMP program, we help individuals figure out what they want to do while supporting them. So if you need support with like taking tests, maybe you're not a good test taker, but you're really good in school, we can help you with tutoring. Maybe you like what Aubrey said or Opal or Nicole when they speak and you want to mentor. Our program helps with mentoring. So it's an all-encompassing program that just helps you figure out what their next is going to be. So one of the things that I want you to take away from this, when you're thinking about Franklin County Job and Family Services and what we do, I do want you to keep the word welfare, but I want you to think of it differently. I want you to think of welfare being that you're mentally checking on someone, mentally making sure everyone's okay, because as we talk about and we're in a space of just making sure that we're okay, if you're not okay, it's okay to not be okay. What's necessary is knowing where to get the benefits so that you can get the help that you or maybe your family need to make you productive and supportive in our community. If you have any questions for me or if you need anything as it relates to Job and Family Services, Bree has been amazing with making sure that we get this information out. She'll share all of our contact information. But again, thank you all for being here. And just remember, whatever it is that you need in this community, we're one resource away. So I'll give it back to you, Bree.
Marcy, thank you so much for sharing that. And I really like the spin on welfare. It is checking in on someone. We are checking to make sure that you are okay and you have the support that you need. So going along the same thing, I am going to turn it over to the wonderful Nicole Ford, the founder of Student Success Stores.
Hello, thank you so much, Bree. I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. All right, make sure that you can see this. Oh, wrong button. All right, so my name is Nicole, and I am one of the co-founders and board operations chair of a nonprofit that operates in Columbus called Student Success Stores. And I'm also a master's student at Ohio State for School Counseling. So to start us off today, I wanted to pose a question to you that I want you to think about for a moment, which is what causes happiness? And I was thinking about this today because when I thought about the work that I do, I thought about how much joy and fulfillment that I can get from it. And I started looking into how research shows that an important key to happiness is actually helping others. And so I'm so excited to be a part of this called today because everybody here has made their life's work, their life mission into helping other people. Studies have shown that when we do kind things, it actually gives our brain a boost, and that helping others also helps us feel connected to other people. This is important for our own well-being, but also helps us build a better world and a better society for everybody to live in. So again, my name is Nicole. I got my bachelor's degree in communications from Ohio State. I chose communications because I did not know at all what I wanted to do with my life, because it's really hard when you're 18 to know, like, what do I want to do? So I just chose that because I liked talking and reading and writing. And after going to college my senior year, I realized, I don't really like this. I think that what I really want to do is make a difference and help people, because that's what brings me the most joy. So when I thought about who made the biggest impact on me growing up, I thought about my teachers, and I thought about people who had invested in me. So I decided to go and become a teacher, and I got my master's degree in secondary education. I moved to Arizona, and I taught 7th grade science there for 2 years. And now I am working on a master's degree in school counseling at the Ohio State University, because when I grow up, I want to be like Brie Losi. As I said, I taught 7th grade science in Arizona. After that, I worked at Big Brothers Big Sisters for a year. I worked at the Columbus Metropolitan Library. Then I missed the classroom, and I went to Reynoldsburg City Schools for 5 years. And now I'm in training to become a counselor. Why do I share this with you? That's because a lot of people's career paths are not just one way. You might not just be like, I want to do this and I'm going to go straight there. You might kind of take a path that is your own special way of getting there. And so that's why I wanted to share that with you. As far as my involvement in the community, I volunteer with Franklin County Children's Services as a mentor, and I also founded a nonprofit organization, Student Success Stories, which is what I'm going to talk to you about today. So what is a nonprofit organization? It is an organization that's aimed at improving lives in the community, and they are essentially a way to try to make the world a better place. So these are some examples of some big national nonprofits that you've probably seen, but there are also some smaller nonprofits, and Student Success Stories is a small nonprofit that I had a part of starting, and I'm still on the board today. Essentially how this happened was I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw that the United Way of Central Ohio had said to the community, what is one way that we can reduce poverty in Columbus? And I thought back on my experience as a teacher and working with kids, and I thought about how we need to really make sure that kids' basic needs are met, because if their basic needs are met, then they're going to be able to come to school and be focused more on school and on their learning and being successful. So we ended up receiving that grant from the United Way of Central Ohio to get started. And our mission is helping students succeed in school by providing a free anonymous place to shop for items that meet their basic needs. Every nonprofit organization has a mission, and essentially that sort of drives their work. So if you're ever curious what a nonprofit does, what they're about, you can always try to find their mission. Organizations also have a larger vision of what they want to achieve. So our vision is by providing students with the essentials, we aim to ensure that each child starts their day healthy, confident, and ready to learn. So we provide these items for students to shop for free in their schools. And just kind of scrolling through some of the pictures of some of the student success stores that we operate in Columbus. So my advice to you in wrapping up is that helping others is happiness, however you can do that. Volunteering is excellent experience, and a lot of nonprofits offer really awesome volunteer opportunities for you to get involved and for you to help others and see kind of what you're interested in. I have continued just to get degrees and progress through my education. I would highly recommend just continuing your education and your training and always being a lifelong learner, because that's going to give you more opportunities. And nonprofits are awesome. Whether they are big or small, they can make a difference in people's lives. So I look forward to your questions later, and thank you so much for giving me the chance to share. I'll pass it back to you, Bree.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I do want to be able to hit a point that Nicole shared about our path to getting to where we're going. Everyone always thinks that it's, oh, you can't see my pen, but that it's a straight line. And it is not. And that is okay. If it is a straight line, that is also okay for you. But a lot of people change their minds. A lot of people like to experience different things before they get to where they are. So know that however you get to where you're going, that's the path that's for you. So I am going to turn it over to our wonderful and final speaker, the wonderful Opal Brandt. And she is joining us from Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's just a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for inviting me, Columbus City Schools, and it's a pleasure to talk to you. I myself have a middle schooler, and so I kind of know how you all, well, I guess I'm not a middle schooler. I used to be, but I know I have a lot of experience with one right now. How about that? So I'm going to start off by kind of sharing like who I am. Then I'm going to talk about what I do, and then a lot about why I actually do it. So to start off, my name is Opal Brandt. I'm not a native to Ohio at all. I've been here since June 2019, born and raised in Maryland, most recently from Baltimore City, Maryland. So I heard someone talk about a straight line, your career path not being a straight line. Mine certainly wasn't. It was a zigzag. It was very much a zigzag. So I think you know what nonprofit is. Now it's really organizations really that are designed to help people. I found myself most of my career being a part of nonprofits and not intentionally. When I was in middle school, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I really wanted to be a marine biologist. I love science. I love the water. I live close to the water. I'm in Maryland, and I just wanted to be a marine biologist. Through that, I hit high school. I said, you know what? I want to be a veterinarian. So some changes happened in high school. I always had a focus to go straight to college, and I did do that, but my major turned from being a vet to partying, and that's what I did my first career. In college, I partied, and guess what happened when I partied? When I majored in party, I flunked out. So I flunked out of college after 3 years. I wasted a lot of money and a lot of time, but I learned a lot of things. There was a lot of experience in that. One of my first jobs, I worked in like a manufacturing company. I worked there over a summer working towards college. And then when I was supposed to start college, they didn't let me continue to work there because I talked too much. They didn't think I spent enough time focusing on the things, whatever I had to build, because I talked too much. So guess what I did? I went and got a full-time job in a call center where I talked all the time. So, and I stayed there for 3 years. So after I flunked out of college the first time, I went to work for a nonprofit through a college, and I learned so much about the different opportunities in that particular university. It was Salisbury University. And then that's when I said, you know what, I'm gonna buckle down and become a vet. So I started taking some science classes. I had already had a young child at the time, and it was difficult. And then I still like people. I love people. I was already working in a nonprofit. So like one of my fellow speakers here, I ended up majoring in communications because, hey, I like to talk. I like to communicate with people. And you know what? I want to communicate with more people. So let me minor in Spanish. Okay. So I wanted to speak to a lot of different types of people. So while during that career, I was an adult at that time, probably in my like 25, 26. So just picture that period of time that I was working, flunked out of college, and then went back to college, right? So my zigzag. So while in college as a adult, I was able to go to Ecuador, which is in South America, for a month, talk to more people. And I realized while in Ecuador, majoring in communications, I was able to volunteer like at an orphanage and really be able to get to know different peoples and different circumstances. And that furthered my love for really being able to help people. So after I graduated from college with communications, my intention was to be going to PR. And that didn't happen. So I ended up working for an agency, a workforce development agency that helped my farm workers who were primarily Spanish speaking figure out now how to do things outside of just farm work. So our job was to really help those individuals figure out, now that they're here in this country, what do you want to do? Like, what are the things that you like to do that can translate outside of just farm work? And then at that same place, I was introduced to a program just like AMP, the one that Marcy had described, to help 16 to 24-year-olds figure out what's their next best in life. So in middle school, you're going to have great ideas of what you want to do. High school, that might change a little bit, but throughout that, just remember that you're having experiences. So in that program, I met a lot of great, wonderful young people who had no idea the skills that they had. When I was coming up, I was not a great athlete. I did not sing. I had no like particular skill that a lot of people end up being popular for. I just didn't know that talking to people was a skill at that time. So in that program, I was able to help young adults really discover what their purpose in life was. So what I do now, well, I guess I fast forwarded. Let me take a step back a bit. So after working with those 16 to 24-year-olds, I ended up moving to Baltimore City, working at a large healthcare organization called Johns Hopkins Medicine, if you've ever heard about it. And what I did there was help employees figure out what they wanted to do, because they've been working in particular roles for a long time. And you know what they said, even in that large organization that employ like nurses and people who fed people, doctors, they said, I feel stuck. I've been doing this for a long time and I feel stuck. And I'm talking about adults. They still were trying to figure out what is their purpose? What is the next path for me? And then that really even more solidified that people, you're going to spend a lot of time at work, the place where you make the most money. When you're really going to enjoy it is when it's something that connects to your purpose. And when you don't know what that purpose is, you start to flounder a little bit. So as soon as you can figure out and start working through, and it's a continual process, what it is and who I am, then that's going to connect you to an opportunity where you can work and enjoy it. So after I left Baltimore City, I moved here because I met a man. I moved to Columbus and I met John. Actually, I used to work for John. Now I'm in a position where I am today is I'm able to help more to do that work, but more at a systems level. I heard someone say that earlier. So what I do now is I talk to employers, talk to businesses, and learn what types of individuals they want to hire. And then I work with partners in the community to help get those people to those opportunities. So I no longer, as a job and really working individually with people and helping them figure out what they want to do, I'm really influencing the system to make sure once people figure out what it is that they want to do, that they have access to those jobs. So a lot of you may have never heard of a software developer. Maybe you have. A lot of you may not heard of a maintenance technician and what does that look like. My job now is to really help you and help employers connect to folks like you and really bring those in-demand jobs to you to help you understand what that even means. And John is doing that right now when you are talking to a group of people who are in this really ambiguous word called nonprofit human services. What is that, you know? And you're getting an opportunity to really engage with folks who are doing that work. So really, we're just a group of people who like to help people, and we're doing it in a lot of different ways. So I just, again, thank you for being here. I encourage you as middle schoolers to understand the experience. Everything's an experience. When you do something and you don't like it, that is an experience, and build on that experience and ultimately never stop, because there's a lot of different paths to get to where you want to be. And every step that you take is building you to your next best. And back to you, Bree.
Thank you so much, Opal, for sharing. Big round of applause for everyone who shared today. I do want to be able to save some time for Q&A. I know a few of you have been able to answer some of the questions in there. We do have a few. I'll read through them, and then if you want to be able to come off mute, you can. So we have, how does my school get a student success store? My friend goes to Mifflin Middle School. I think that one's very directed to wonderful Nicole. And I'll read through all of them and then you all can kind of take through. We have, how much does it cost at student success store? How do I travel in school? And do I have to have a degree for you to help me find a job? Are our questions so far. So feel free to type in and answer that. But before we do get to those, one of the questions I'd like to ask as a school counselor is, not sure if all the wonderful middle school and high school students on here know, but when you graduate, you need to have 120 hours of internship hours. And part of that is community service. And so I wanted to ask the wonderful nonprofits that are on here if there's opportunity for students to be able to get involved within your nonprofit organization.
I'll go first and say yes, even though I'm not a nonprofit. We are kind of, well, I guess we're government, so we're there. Basically, we do have internships as well as we have our summer youth employment program that is coming up, and it's called Franklin County Ready to Earn. And that program is for youth between the ages of 14 to 21. And so, as everyone has said on this panel, education is vitally important. And as you're going about and learning different things, you might do a work experience and it might be the best work experience ever, but it's not something you want to do forever. So to Bree's point, getting those experiences, if there's something specific that you would like to do, we have some information that'll be coming out soon, but we do have our Franklin County Ready to Earn program that's going to be managed through the Columbus Urban League, Godman Guild Association, Lead the Way, and we also have a wonderful partnership with Nationwide Children's Hospital that is helping individuals who want to be in the clinical and non-clinical capacity, because remember I shared with healthcare, there's a lot of positions that are available. So check your community, stay tuned for that, but definitely have work experiences available for individuals starting at the age of 14.
Thank you for that. I did not know that that existed, so super excited to share that out.
I will say that Student Success Stores loves volunteers, and you can sign up to volunteer if you go to studentsuccessstores.org and click on the volunteer tab. We would love to have you volunteer, and you can sign up for events there.
For the Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio, we certainly are open to volunteers, especially in our Ohio Means Job Center, even if it's young and you want to tour and kind of learn how and what we do. But we also have access to plenty of employers. If there is a particular interest, we're certainly open to reaching out to those employers to see what connections that we can make. And I put my email in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think there was a question directed to you, Opal, as how do I travel in school? I think that you had spoke when you had your minor in Spanish. How did you have the opportunity to be able to travel?
Thank you for asking that. So financially, I needed some money. So I will plug AmeriCorps. So if you've ever heard of AmeriCorps program, it's like a volunteer opportunity where for the program that I was in, we worked with, it was like a community youth program that I worked in, and we helped those young people have life skills, things like that. And so being a part of AmeriCorps, it taught you a lot of leadership skills as well. And you have a stipend for that. And I use that for study abroad. So a lot of schools that you go to will have a study abroad program, and they have it all set up for you, and it just costs money. Sometimes if you have good grades, you can get scholarships that'll help you pay for it. But like myself, I had good grades, but I was old as well, and I needed more money because I had dependents. So don't put yourself in that situation. But AmeriCorps was a great opportunity where I was able to use some of those funds to travel. If you don't go to a school that has like a study abroad program, there are different opportunities for that. And if you're interested in chatting more about that, I mean, I don't know if you're at that point, because they even have them for high school. There are programs that you can plug into that will help young people do that.
Thank you for sharing that. I know when I used to work in Atlanta, we had high school students participating in what's called Camp Adventure. And so you will travel all over the world and go to military bases and be able to provide programs and essentially be like a camp counselor to their kids. So the opportunity starts in high school. Let me turn to any of the questions. It says, do I have to have a degree for you to help me find a job? I think, Opal, that is also geared towards you.
No, there are plenty of jobs out there where you don't have to have a degree. I am not discouraging people from doing that. I do encourage lifelong education. So certificate programs, all types of things. There are some jobs, especially in IT, where you can make 60 plus and you do not have a master's or a bachelor's degree.
Thank you. I do want to say something else that Opal had touched on. So she spoke about AmeriCorps. So all of you in middle school have schooling lessons that you have been working with, which is our college and career curriculum. And if you have someone coming into your school to help you teach those lessons, they are from AmeriCorps. They partner with I Know I Can. So you have firsthand experience with wonderful AmeriCorps individuals. And the cool thing is a lot of the participants in AmeriCorps with I Know I Can have been students in Columbus City Schools. I think there's only one more question that we haven't answered, and I think, Nicole, it was geared towards you. It says, how much does it cost at Student Success Store?
Thank you for that question. I wanted to say that I also did an AmeriCorps program really quick, so I highly recommend that. I did that right out of college, and that's actually what took me to Arizona. So AmeriCorps programs are all across the country. So especially if you want to have the opportunity to travel, move somewhere new, meet new people, have new experiences, I highly recommend AmeriCorps. They also paid off part of my student loans. And so it helped me pay for my college doing AmeriCorps, which was super awesome. And I also had the opportunity to travel abroad because of my college experience. I went over to France for a summer. So that's also something that education can give you, is these opportunities to broaden your horizons. Okay, so to answer your question about the Student Success Store, it's actually completely free for students to shop. So students get to shop completely for free. There's no cost for students to be able to shop. And then there was a question about how to get a student success store in your building. We mostly work with school counselors and school social workers. And so that would be something that we would love to discuss with your school counselor, school social worker. So if you want to try to bring it to your school, we'd love to chat with your school social worker or school counselor.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to give, if there's anything else anyone would like to add, if not, I do want to also have some space to be able to thank Aubrey, Opal, Marcy, and Nicole so much for being here today to get to share their part of the human services and nonprofit sector and how they are giving back to our community, specifically right here in Columbus, Ohio. I also want to give thanks to the wonderful John Hambrick, who makes all of this possible from ESC. We would not be able to get, this is our very last one, which, oh my goodness, how the heck did we get here? I appreciate all of you getting to come and watch these whenever you have the opportunity to do that. I think it, like we said, exposing yourself to as many opportunities as you can will help you get to where you are supposed to be. So if anyone wants to say anything, I'll turn that over. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you. I also wanted to add, we've talked a lot about volunteering and work experience. Even if nonprofit is not your jam, if you think you're a computer person or a doctor or a lawyer, please don't hesitate to volunteer, to show up. I cannot tell you, every day I'm privileged to have purpose in my career. And a lot of folks out there, you may not end up in a place where you have purpose in your career necessarily as far as helping humanity. There is something that does for you as a human being. If you're having a bad day, a hard time, if you're not feeling good about yourself, come show up, help somebody else. I promise you, you will feel better. It's something that's a privilege for me to have as part of my job. I'm very blessed to have this as part of my career, but I just encourage you to show up at a nonprofit and help with social services. You should not graduate from high school before having shown up and just tried it out. You might hate it. I've done a lot of volunteer Habitat for Humanity, building benches in the rain. It wasn't fun, but I still felt good at the end of the day about what I was doing. So I just really encourage you to check it out. And thank you.
Thank you all. Well, wonderful middle school and high school students. I hope that you rock out the rest of the school year. I hope that you take the opportunity to get involved. Helping people are happy people, as I would say would be the theme of this conversation today. So thank you again for being here, and we hope to see you all next year.